Anakin versus Obi-Wan, Kirk versus Khan, Hatfields versus McCoys. These are what we call rivalries. But seriously though, rivalries have always been a part of our culture, let alone part of storytelling. Rivalries are what define either a hero or a villain, maybe sometimes both. But there is always that one rivalry that has always stood through time. No matter how controversial it gets, no matter how brutal it gets, no matter how big or how small people may see it, there is always that one rivalry that comes out on top that everybody knows is fundamentally the definitive rivalry. And that rivalry is Batman and the Joker. The Dark Knight versus the Clown Prince of Crime. These two have stood the test of time that you would not even think is even possible. Just for context, the Batman and the Joker have been duking it out, going toe to toe, head to head, mano a mano. These two have been going at each other since 1940.
Bruh.
Yes, these two have been duking it out before America was involved in World War II. These guys predate that. Talk about old. Like, holy crap, I don't even know where to go with this rivalry. The Batman and Joker is literally the definitive rivalry in pulp culture history. Before we even touch the Arkham Origins review, we are going to go into depth on what this rivalry means to society and why it has always stood the test of time even to this day. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Most rivalries involve characters that come from similar backgrounds or share a similar goal. Kirk versus Khan. Kirk and Khan, for example, are both soldiers. They're both warriors. They live and breathe for the thrill and for the fight. Then you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, both Jedi Knights. But then you have the Joker and the Batman. What makes this rivalry stand out so much and why it has stood the test of time to this day is because these two are so definitively opposite from one another. You can't get more opposite than these two. Joker comes from a world and a life of crime, and Batman comes from a life of wealth and prestige. Joker is a criminal and a murderer. Batman is a hero and a guardian. These two are so fundamentally different from each other, you think that, one would stand out more than the other. Batman and Joker have such a rivalry, it goes beyond physical, it goes to psychological. One cannot live without the other. Batman cannot simply take out the Joker because it's against his morals, and Joker can't simply take out the Batman because he would lose the one thing that he thinks is most precious to him. But before we get into Arkham Origins, the characters, what they mean to each other and such like that, we gotta understand the history of Arkham Origins. We gotta understand the birth of the rivalry. To me, there are 4 stages of a rivalry. 1, there's the foundation. 2, the war. 3, the consequences of that rivalry. And 4, the conclusion. Batman and Joker have never had a conclusion, a proper conclusion to their rivalry. No one character has looked for closure. No one character has defeated each other. That's how long these two have been fighting, to the point to where it's an endless war. But the writers and directors of the Batman Arkhamverse knew that this would need to be changed. The writers literally saw that, yes, this is the biggest rivalry in pop culture history, but at the same time, all good things must come to an end. And that includes Batman versus Joker. There has to be a conclusion. There has to be closure. But first, before we can talk about the ending, we must talk about the beginning, the foundation, the catalyst, what started it all. The year is 2011. Batman Arkham City releases along the legends like Assassin's Creed Revelations, Skyrim, Modern Warfare 3, and Gears of War 3. Literally, you cannot define such a stacked list of video games as these before. Arkham City flourished. It is one of the greatest games of all time, and it's probably the greatest Batman game of all time. In my personal opinion, I know that's a hot take, but sue me. Batman Arkham City laid the foundation to where it could almost not be beat. It is considered one of the greatest games of all time, and for that reason, it was hard to even think about a game that could even outdo City. Well, that's what the developers were working on. During the production time between Batman Arkham City and Batman Arkham Knight, it was a 4-year development cycle. Now, Arkham Asylum released in 2009. Keep up with me, I'm going somewhere with this. 2009 and 2011, there's a 2-year development cycle between Asylum and City. But Arkham Knight was going to be a much bigger project. Knight was going to be the conclusion, but in order to conclude the greatest rivalry ever, the developers knew that they needed more time in the oven to create this masterpiece. However, there would be a bit of a problem. Like I said, the development cycle between City and Asylum is a 2-year difference. The development cycle between City and Knight is a 4-year difference. You see the problem? The problem that Rocksteady and Warner Brothers was facing was that there was going to be a 4-year difference with no Batman content. So Warner Brothers came up with the idea to hand over the Batman IP to Warner Brothers Montreal, and they were given access to one of the biggest IPs at the time. Arkham Origins was a very special case. Arkham Origins had to literally be the prequel, and it had to keep fans happy in between the development cycle from 2011 to 2015. However, Arkham Origins on release in the year 2013 was met with more skepticism than it was praise, and there's several factors on why. So, keeping up with the regular development cycle, Arkham Origins released in the year 2013, 2 years after City was released. So, what went wrong with Origins? Why wasn't even it considered one of the best games in the Arkham series? It was much larger in scale, it had a lot more side activities, a lot more characters added to it. But what was the problem with the game? What struggle? Why did this game not meet the expectations like Asylum and City did? Well, there's several factors on why. One reason was the actors. That is right, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill do not portray their iconic roles as the Dark Knight and the Joker. Conroy and Hamill were currently working on Knight at the time, so they couldn't really focus on 2 projects. So here's the big question. With 2 of the biggest actors and basically the identity of the Batman universe working on another project, who in the hell would take up the reins of the Dark Knight and the Clown Prince of Crime? Well, that's when a guy named Roger Craig Smith appeared. Who is Roger Craig Smith? Well, you'll know him from his more iconic role as the Italian assassin himself, Ezio Auditore da Firenze. Yes, this man laid the foundation for the Assassin's Creed franchise. Not only that, he also portrayed the greatest assassin of all time. So, needless to say, Ezio going to Batman, yeah, that was a good choice. Roger Craig Smith absolutely smashes this role. He dominates this role as a young Batman, and he does a really damn good job. So I gotta give him props. Well, with that out of the way, who do we roll as the Clown Prince of Crime? Well, let's just drop 90% of the game's budget on Troy Baker. Yeah, that Troy Baker. Yeah, that guy. If you need to ask who Troy Baker is, bro, just look him up. He's literally considered the greatest voice actor of all time in the gaming industry. 2 completely different voice actors. Granted, they had a history behind them, but people felt like they couldn't hold up to the roles of the 2 most iconic characters in not alone the DC universe, but in any universe, period. That's number 1. Number 2, what was the other reason that people felt skeptical about Arkham Origins? Well, unlike Asylum and City, Origins was under a very rushed development, and you can clearly tell just by the graphical fidelity. I mean, look at the difference. Now, I'm not saying Batman Arkham Origins is a terrible game, or a terrible looking game, I should say. Batman Arkham Origins is a good looking game. It still looks good to this day, but if we're comparing it to its predecessors, there's a lot to be desired. One of the biggest points that I can make about critiquing this game is everything looks kind of blurry. Like the scenery looks kind of blurry. Meanwhile, Arkham City, it's gorgeous. That is probably my biggest critique about the game, is it doesn't look anywhere near as good as Asylum or City, especially Asylum. And Asylum was the first game released. So yeah, with the last minute changes to the cast and the very poor graphical fidelity compared to its predecessors, Arkham Origins did not really stand a chance to win any awards or stand out amongst the others. So now that you know why this game did not meet to the standard that the other games had in the past, and now that you know why the cast had to be changed last minute, so what does Origins do to stand out amongst the others? Well, like I said, there are 4 phases in a rivalry. Origins is obviously the foundation. Every rivalry needs a beginning. Every rivalry needs a catalyst. Everything that started with Batman and Joker in the Arkhamverse starts in this game. Everything that these two characters go through from here on out starts at Origin. So as you can imagine, it's pretty in-depth. So, where do we begin? Well, let's start with Black Mask. Alright, so our story starts at the Batcave. Bruce Wayne emerges with the thickest thighs a man could ever have and a man could ever wish for, and he is aura farming. I mean, look at this. Literally aura farming, the smug bastard. Anyway, there is a riot going on at Blackgate Prison, being led by none other than Black Mask. If you don't know who Black Mask is the biggest crime lord in Gotham City in this universe. He is a rich businessman, but also a complete psychopath. Black Mask's real name is Roman Sionis. Roman Sionis owns multiple businesses within Gotham City, not to mention he has like 90% of the GCPD on his payroll. So to say the man has influence is a bit of an understatement. Anyway, continuing on with the story. We do not know why Black Mask is doing this, but we have to investigate it anyway. So we go in and we find out Black Mask is being assisted by this beautiful beast himself, Killer Croc. He is a handsome devil. Look at that chin. I mean, any woman would fall for that. Oh man, she'd be slobbering all over that guy. Anyway, we infiltrate the prison, we chase after Black Mask and Killer Croc, and we intercept a drone. Keep an eye on this drone for later. It is important. So we continue on our path. We catch up to Black Mask and Killer Croc. Killer Croc destroys the drone, but he's so stupid he forgets to smash the memory card. So we reach to the top of the roof where we're trying to intercept Black Mask, and guess who's waiting for us? Yep, the giant lizard man himself. So after some quick exchanges, Batman defeats Killer Croc, but not before Killer Croc spills the beans that Black Mask is hiring assassins to come and kill us. Yes, apparently Black Mask has put a $50 million bounty on our heads. So, we need to find Black Mask and put an end to this. We find Black Mask, we put an end to the $50 million, and the assassins have nothing to fight for. Pretty simple, right? Well, not really. We need to find the guy. So, apparently, the person operating the drone is the only person in Gotham that can get their hands on drones. But, like I said previously, Black Mask is the richest man in Gotham City, right next to Bruce Wayne. But you know what? The only person that can get their hands on drones is apparently the Penguin. This short, chubby, bold abomination. So we gotta go pay Penguin a visit. After some detective sleuthing and tracking of his radio signals, we head to the ship, the Final Offer, where he's hosting a boiler deck fighting challenge because why not? So Batman introduces himself into the ring, and none other than that, we find our second assassin. May I present to you Stephen Blosky, Stephen Chakowski, Ruby Gabuski, his name's Electrocutioner. What do you want me to say? He's an idiot, you know? Electrocutioner jumps into the ring, talking his head off and acting like he's the hottest thing since sliced bread. Well, we respond as any reasonable person would respond.
wants to show me where the Penguin is?
Yeah, I'd say that solidified the deal right there, you know? Good shot. So after we embarrassingly put Electrocutioner on his big fat behind, every thug on the final offer comes and tries to defeat us. Well, obviously, you can imagine what happens after that. We defeat him and we find out Penguin is in the theater on the other side of the ship, practically. So we have to go find Penguin. After a very lovely tour of the final offer, we finally catch up to the theater where Penguin is interrogating a member of another crime family, the Falcones. So before Penguin could introduce his little friend to Alberto's crotch area, we interrupt the interrogation and kindly ask Penguin some questions. And when I mean kindly...
Now hold on. Hold on a bloody minute. I seen your act. I ain't done nothing you not done.
Yeah, I don't know how Penguin's getting up from that one. So after some brief interrogation, right when Penguin's spilling some beans about a murder at a place called the Lacey Towers, we get...
It appears the game is over before it even begins.
I'm not playing games, Slade.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Deathstroke, the third assassin after our booty hole. So after a very epic but short-lived battle between us and Slade, we defeat Slade Wilson and we try to get back to Penguin. Well, Penguin is sitting in his room with his two lady friends. Good for him. Glad you're moving up in the world. Anyway, we're moving on. Penguin mentioned something about Lacey Towers. We go over to Lacey Towers to investigate. Turns out, not only was it a homicide, but a double homicide. Turns out the one of the victims is a young woman by Tiffany Ambrose, Roman Sionis' girlfriend. Not only that, Roman Sionis is a victim. He is the second victim of the homicide. Well, how can that be when we obviously just saw him at Blackgate Prison? Well, long story short, we find out that there was multiple people inside the building. Besides Tiffany Ambrose and Black Mask, there was the shooter, and then apparently there was a fourth person. It turns out to be a lot more confusing than it should be. So in order to get the answers that we want, we have to go to the GCPD and infiltrate their base of operations and collect the evidence that they have collected and match it with our own. Along the way, while we're in the building, we run into Barbara Gordon.
Oh my God!
Obviously, she's not a big character in the story. She's more of a side character, and she's obviously put in for fanfare, but it's nice. Then we run into Jim Gordon.
Excuse me.
Now remember, Batman and Jim aren't in a good relationship right now. Batman is only in his second career as the Dark Knight. So, with that being said, there is a lot of people in the GCPD and in Gotham City in general that do not like Batman. Batman has to still earn his title as the protector of Gotham City. He is not very much liked among the civilian populace of Gotham itself. So after we run into Jim and Barbara and make our way out of the GCPD and infiltrate their main line in the sewer system, we finally put all the pieces together. So it turns out that not only was Roman Sionis captured, he was captured to access the vault of the Gotham Merchants Bank. And the person who was responsible for the kidnapping, well... Yeah, this beautiful bastard. You all know him, you all love him, you think he's the best, he's the wisest, you know, he's a good guy, you know, he's a good guy.
So do you have anything else to contribute? I didn't think so. gathered in my house to open one present each on Christmas Eve. How about this one? And the party's in a pantry.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I've killed a lot of people. I brought the city to its knees, crippled the police force, and it's not even time to unwrap our presents.
I don't think he's a good guy.
No shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the Clown Prince of Crime, the Minister of Mayhem, the King of Destruction, the Joker. That's a lot of titles. He's very proud of him, as you can see. Turns out Joker was not only the one that led the Blackgate riots, captured and tortured Roman Sionis, but he also put the $50 million bounty on our head. So pretty much Joker has been planning this for years. So after some very nice introductions, and you know, the bank lady is obviously here, very happy to see us, like she looks like she's having a blast. Speaking of blast, Joker's had enough of this hi, how you doing kind of thing, and he blows up the bank vault right on our faces. So after we get ambushed and we take down some thugs, we find out that Roman Sionis is being held captive at the Sionis steel mill. So we head over to the steel mill to interrogate Roman and find out who the Joker is and what is he doing in Gotham City. So as we're making our way down to the bottom of the steel mill, we find Roman Sionis' giant secret laboratory. And not only that, we find Roman being strung up like a frickin' pig in his own office. This Joker guy really likes to throw it in your face, doesn't he? Anyway, so once we let Sionis down, we start asking questions.
Where's the Joker?
Go to hell.
Wrong answer. I can control your pacemaker remotely. You want to see what 250 beats per minute feels like?
Hold up. Wait a minute.
But in the middle of our friendly conversation, we are ambushed by another assassin. This is right now the fourth assassin we have run into. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to Copperhead. Copperhead ambushes us while we're interrogating Roman Sionis, and during the confrontation between Batman and Copperhead, Sionis makes his escape. Well, come to the point, Copperhead poisons Batman, but you know, as you can tell, we don't die because Batman has that armor called Plot. You already know what's going on. We cure ourselves of our poison, we defeat Copperhead, and she spills the beans a little bit on what Joker is doing. Turns out Joker is hosting a meeting with all the assassins. Anyway, convenient plot twist, we managed to track Electrocutioner's gloves to the Gotham Royal Hotel. So apparently Joker has not revealed his identity, that he is not Black Mask to the police department, and he's still using the cover to manipulate the police into locking down the entire vicinity. No one gets in, no one gets out. So we make our way through the garage and we enter the main lobby where the security booth is. Well, this is where Joker officially reveals himself to the entire assassin group. And at first, no one takes him very seriously. Anyway, to prove his point that he is not to be messed with, Electrocutioner starts thinking he's all blood and guts again. Well, he becomes blood and guts, because Joker wants to see if he has the ability to fly. What? Also, spoiler alert, if you haven't noticed, Bane is just chilling right now. He's a big thing in the story later on. So keep an eye on Bane. So we make our way to the top. Turns out Bane is not as stupid or ooga booga as we would like to believe. He finds where we're hiding and throws us around like a rag doll. As Batman starts laying into Joker, Bane jumps in and throws us out of the penthouse window. Now I want you to pay attention to a very close line. Before Bane throws us out, I want you to listen to this.
I've long waited for this moment. With your death, I will find peace.
Keep in mind, we're going to talk about that later. So after a big brutal battle on the top of the Gotham City Royal Hotel, the GCPD and Jim Gordon come in to save the day and save Batman from getting killed, thanks to Alfred calling it in. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to this whole section of the Gotham City Royal Hotel. It's going to come in handy later on, especially this scene. That's a lot of dead thugs. Why are you wasting all these
Sir,
thugs?
I've just seen the explosion of the Gotham Royal on the news. The hotel guests, are they safe?
Not now, Alfred.
Sir, are you all right? Your voice...
I'm fine, Alfred. I've dealt with psychopaths before, but this...
Sir, I strongly suggest you call in Captain Gordon. He could be a valuable ally for you.
I don't need any allies.
Anyway, GCPD ambushes Bane, Batman, and Joker on the top of the roof, and Bane manages to escape. But before he does, he has a little something for Joker.
Just where do you think you're going? Huh?
As Joker is falling down the building, Batman, of course, is going to be the hero and save the Clown Prince of Crime. As he does, this is what happens.
Why would you do that? Newsflash! I'm the one who's trying to kill you! Those were two very, very bad men. Ooh, the things they've done. You really don't want to know. They deserved death. Just like me.
Again, pay attention to the scene. It's important. Everything that happens in the Gotham Royal Hotel is important. So after Batman defeats Joker, Joker is sent to Blackgate Prison to get psych evaled by none other than Dr. Harleen Quinzel. I can imagine you know who she's going to be in later titles. This is where the plot gets insane, like really insane. This is where Batman and Joker, their psychological relationship begins. So you gotta remember that this is the first time Batman has ever encountered someone like the Joker before. And this is the first time for Joker that anyone would bother to save him. We'll start with Joker first. Joker is so affected by Batman saving him that he does not understand why he saved him. But he knows that there's a purpose between him and Batman, that there's a reason why he was spared. Joker takes this as like a sign of fate, that this is not something that he should just, take for granted in a really, really messed up way. Joker believes that Batman and him have more in common than Batman would like to believe. And Joker believes that this is a sign that he is meant to be who he is. On the other side, Batman is so affected by Joker due to Joker's taste for violence. Just for example, like I said, during the battle of the Royal Hotel, you can see literally hallways littered with piles and piles of corpses. I mean, even back at the Gotham Merchants Bank, you see literal corpses displayed like they're ornaments around, like they're toys, like they're mannequins. Batman has never encountered something like this so violent and so brutal that he does not know how to cope with it, that he is struggling to cope with it. And Joker takes it as a sign of fate that these two are meant to be who they are, and that Joker will never stop abusing Batman and trying to break Batman. Joker vows this pretty much. And he tries to accomplish this later in the game, as we'll get to it. But meanwhile, while Joker is having epiphany about his, how much he loves Batman, apparently, Batman is having a psychological break at the Batcave. He can't stop thinking about Joker to the point where he's having nightmares and PTSD about his parents' murder, because that is how much the man has affected Bruce. Alfred notices this. Alfred notices that Joker has put a brand almost on Batman, that Batman can't stop thinking about it, and Batman cannot rest until everybody who is associated with Joker is put behind bars. Alfred notices this and he tries to stop Bruce. He tries to push through the mask and tries to talk to Bruce, not Batman, and telling him to settle down, to tell him to stop before it's too late.
Master Bruce, stop! Master Bruce, Bruce,
What are you?
I will not in good conscience allow you to go. You're outmatched by these assassins.
what?
But you're not some hardened vigilante. You're a young man with a trust fund and too much anger. You're in over your head, and I don't want this to be your end.
Alfred, who do you see when you look at me? The boy whose shoes you used to tie every morning? The teenager you drove to his first date? While you are here every night, I am out there. The only thing between the innocent and the predatory.
Be.
No, not may be. I am. When the mugger or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am. That is why they hired assassins, because I am the reason the criminals breathe easier when the sun rises. So no, Alfred, I am not in over my head. Tonight will be my end, but it will be theirs.
Batman, of course, does not listen. Him and Alfred get into a spat, and Batman takes off. Currently, at this point, Alfred and him are in a tense situation in their relationship. Now, at this point, before we get into further story, I want to point out that during the battle of the Gotham Royal Hotel, Batman throws a tracker on Bane's back. So Batman is using the police monitor and finds out that someone OD'd on Venom and is sitting at the morgue. He thinks this might be Bane or one of his men, but either way, it could be a clue to where Bane is and what's his overall goal. Now, earlier, during Batman infiltrating the GCPD, apparently Brandon, the main police officer and the most corrupt police officer within the GCPD, tried to discredit Gordon and start a riot under Gordon's watch. Apparently, during that riot, there was a thug who was a Venom user. So Batman goes to investigate. Turns out the person who was in the riot was the Venom user, not Bane. So Batman goes and observes the autopsy report made on the individual. Turns out the dude OD'd on a new strain of Venom called TN1. This new strain of Venom, only a certain amount of people can withstand it, but even if they could, or if they're able to, they still lose a good portion of their memory. Keep this in mind, we'll get back to it. Finally, after investigating the morgue and the body, Batman gets the tracker back online and finds Bane's hideout. So we enter Bane's hideout and we find out that Bane is trying to reverse the effects of the TN1 strain to where it does not have prolonged exposure to the brain's memory center. Turns out he's struggling with this. Not only do we find out about that, but we also find out that Bane is so obsessed with us to the point that he found out our identity. He knows who we are. He knows who Batman is. He knows who Bruce Wayne is. Batman orders Alfred to go into lockdown mode. And as we're trying to make our way back to Wayne Manor, we find out that Firefly is torching the Pioneer Bridge. You already know where this is going. So long story short, I cut the portion out of the whole details of the Pioneer Bridge being set on fire because it's literally filler. So the whole section with Pioneer's Bridge, I kind of skim over because, well, I don't know how you just drop the bomb that Batman's identity just gets nuked by Bane. And then, side note, Firefly has a fetish for burning stuff. Great, cool. Who cares? GCPD can do it. I got concerns. I got an old man who's about to get pummeled by a giant monkey dude. Yeah, that makes sense. So this literal section of the bridge being attacked is literally nothing but a filler portion of the game. It's the same design they did for finding the penguin on the final offer. I mean, you literally go on the other side of the boat just to get thrown out of the doors overlooking the same pit that you started at. So it was kind of redundant. I mean, Batman could just smash the door in at the top of the fighting pit and called it game over. But no, don't get me wrong, the Firefly boss fight is pretty cool and it's cinematic as hell. But if we're looking at it from a story point of view, it was literally just put in there for pacing, but the timing, I think, was really inconvenient. I get why they did it, but it just felt like the pacing was kind of interrupted at that point. To fix that, I feel like Firefly attacking Pioneer's Bridge should have been a side quest or a side mission. Right when you discover Bane found out about your identity, Firefly pops up as a side mission. So you can have the extra option to go fight Firefly, or you can head straight to Wayne Manor. And what could happen is the entire mansion gets destroyed, the Batcave gets destroyed, you get defeated, and Alfred is almost pummeled to death. So I feel like that would have been a lot better in terms of pacing. That's also another biggest critique I have. Long story short, we defuse the bombs, we make peace with Gordon to a point, we defeat Firefly. After we defeat Firefly, turns out Bane infiltrated the manor, and not only infiltrated the manor, but completely destroyed the entire Batcave. And Alfred is buried beneath the rubble. At this point, when Batman finds Alfred, he is completely distraught. He is defeated. He is brought down to the lowest he could possibly be.
Alfred, you can't.
Don't add me to the weight you carry.
But before Batman gives up entirely, he manages to bring Alfred back just in the nick of time by makeshifting Electrocutioner's gloves into an AED. But at this point, Batman is morally defeated. He does not know what to do, and he feels like he has completely and utterly been morally broken.
I know I haven't always been supportive of what you do, but I understand now. Go. They need you out there.
I can't defend Gotham. I can't even defend my own home.
Master Bruce.
Situation critical. Multiple casualties reported. Code 10. Repeat, code 10. Any available unit. Repeat, any available unit. Please respond.
Master Bruce, now is not the time for doubt.
I can't do it. I can't stop them.
Alfred says otherwise, and I'll let Alfred say what needs to be said.
No, you can't. Not on your own, but it's high time you realize that you are a man, not an island. And a man's strength comes not from just brawn and intelligence, but also from his allies.
C1 alert. The Joker has escaped from his cell and is leading the riots at Blackgate. Repeat, the Joker has taken over the entire prison. Multiple casualties. Multiple hostages. Again, we have lost Blackgate. Captain Gordon is calling on anyone for assistance.
They need you.
No. They need us.
With Alfred beside him and finding new purpose and motivation, Batman goes back to Blackgate Prison to where it all started. Apparently, Joker broke out and is starting another riot. So Batman makes his way through Blackgate Penitentiary, and we go into what is called the Panopticon. Joker is not done with Batman, and neither is Bane. Joker and Bane do one last team up to try and break Batman's moral compass. They try to break Batman and making him kill either the Joker or Bane. No ands, ifs, or buts.
Let him go.
I understand you. You had a chance to let me die, and you didn't take it. I bet right now you're wishing you had. I've killed a lot of people. I brought the city to its knees, crippled the police force, and it's not even time to unwrap our presents. Ship it!
Let's do this.
Okay. So, what our friend Bane holds in his hand is a heart monitor. Once he clamps it on, every beat of his vacant little heart will charge the battery on this electric chair. And when it's fully charged... So either you kill Bane...
No, won't kill him.
But you will. You will fight me with all your resolve, or you will die. Someone is going to die. You, me, or the clown. The question of which one of us it is in your hands.
But during the battle between Bane and Batman, Batman finds a way to stop Bane's heart. With Bane being briefly flatlined, Joker thinks that he has won and broken Batman, and he takes his leave. Batman then takes the time to resuscitate Bane and bring him back to life. Bad idea! Bane, who is pissed off to the ends of the earth, has had enough. He has had enough of Batman, he has had enough of Batman's tricks. With one last-ditch effort to take out the Dark Knight, he injects himself with the TN1 strain and turns into...
You leave me no choice, Mr. Wayne.
Oh, he's juicing! He's juicing! Man, what? Yeah, I got nothing. I don't know where I don't know what. After we defeat TN1 version of Bane,
Must find Batman.
we head to the chapel to find Joker. This is where it all comes to a head.
Oh, that's... it's so... What a night! Fresh off the kill, and back for more, eh?
Bane's still alive.
Now that's not funny. All this rage, all directed at me, and for what? You know, if you'd actually let me finish a sentence, you might learn something! You might learn that we're not so different. You might learn something about yourself!
You need to learn to shut up.
You know, it's sad, really. Makes me feel like you don't care to see the good side in me. Well, I guess learning is a lot to ask from you, meat for brains. You just can't get it through your thick scalp. Ugh. We both exist because of them!
Give up! You've lost!
like the way it feels. It's what you need. Come on, baby. Beat me till your knuckles bleed. Why quit there? You know there's only one way to stop me.
What an ending. I can end the video right there, and that would conclude the review. But let's go into depth on why this game, in my opinion, depicts the rivalry between the Batman and the Joker perfectly. Arkham Origins isn't a masterpiece. Let's just get that out of the way. It's not a masterpiece. But what it does do well is it establishes the first stage of a rivalry, the foundation. Like I said earlier, most rivalries involve characters that come from similar backgrounds or share a similar history. The only thing that Joker and Batman have in common is that they're in the same city. But other than that, they are completely polar opposite individuals. Batman can't simply come to terms with killing his prey, with killing criminals. Why is that? Why is Batman so adamant about not wanting to kill the Joker? Well, it will surprise you the answer. Not only would it go against his moral code, but it would go against something that he himself knows for a fact. If he went down that path, if he went down to the easy route, then he would be no better than the rest of the criminals and the evil that resides in Gotham. Gotham City is a cesspool of crime. It is an epicenter of evil and wickedness. Batman knows this. Bruce knows this. So his answer to fight against that wickedness, to fight against that evil, is to not stoop down to its level. And it takes not just guts, but it takes a soul beyond what we can comprehend as like morality, to not go down that level. Because let's just all be honest, any one of us would happily put the Joker down like a dog. Batman is not trying to prove that he's better than the police, that he's better than, any other person that's trying to do the right thing. Batman is just simply not trying to fall down that route of evil and wickedness. Because once he goes down that path, Batman will never come out of it. He will never be able to live with himself. Because not only does he not want to be like the others in Gotham City, but he made a promise to his parents that he would be vengeance to the eyes of the criminals. But at the same time, while he's representing vengeance, he has to be the hand of justice. And at the same time, even though he goes through all this pain and trauma, even though he goes through the brutality of Joker trying to purge his soul, Batman will not stoop down to the level that others would think is the easiest way. Batman does not want to see himself as judge, jury, and executioner. And that is why he cannot come to killing the Joker. As easy as it is, he just can't go against who he is as a man. And that's what makes Batman so special, is he's not a demigod, he's not a superhuman being with flying abilities, he's not a deity of high proportions. He's a man. He's flesh and blood. He has morals. He has a standard. He has rules. Not every man can relate to Superman. Not every man can relate to Captain America. Not every man can relate to Black Panther. But every man can be a Batman. That's what Batman signifies. He signifies going down the path that no one else would. Not taking the easy road. That's what Batman signifies. And Joker signifies the opposite. Joker signifies pure evil. He signifies death. He signifies pure violence and hatred. Everything that is wrong, everything that is immoral, everything that is evil and wicked. This man is literally the devil incarnate. Joker is the epitome of corrupted morality. And Joker makes his life career into trying to break Batman. Joker tries this so much that he nearly succeeds multiple times in the Arkhamverse. But at the end of the day, Batman is that. Batman is the opposite of what Joker is. He is the pure opposite. He's not a perfect man. Batman is not a perfect man by any means of the imagination, nor do we want him to be a perfect man. He is flawed. He suffers from trauma. He suffers from loss, just like anybody else would. That's what makes this rivalry so special, is they're so fundamentally different. These two define good versus evil. That's why this rivalry is so iconic. I don't care what you say, I don't care who you think is the best. These two are the pinnacle of good versus evil, right versus wrong. There is no other standard. And that's why we still get stories of these two to this day, is because that is how important they are. They are a lifelong lesson of right and wrong. That's why Batman and the Joker are the definitive rivalry. That is why Arkham Origins captures the foundation of this rivalry to a T. And this is why this story still stands to this day. This is why people want a remake of this story, of Arkham Origins, is because this is the standard of what these two characters mean. This is the start of it. And what you're going to see as this series progresses is what happens when you push both of these characteristics, when you push both evil and good to their max potential. When you're willing to go that far, you will be shown what lines will be crossed, how far you will go to achieve those goals, especially from the Joker's point of view. Joker is trying to do everything in his power to bring Batman to his knees. His one goal is to turn this symbol into a symbol of suffering. That's why the Dark Knight versus the Clown Prince of Crime is the most iconic rivalry to date. And you can fight me on that one. Arkham Origins has a beautifully written and cinematic story. Yes, there's some problems with the pacing, I will agree. But overall, it gets the message across. The dynamic between Joker and Batman starting here is what sells this game. It's what makes this game iconic. Troy Baker and Roger Craig Smith dominate their roles as these two characters. Their chemistry in this game is like that of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. These two feed off of each other well, they play off of each other well, and it fits the dynamic. Jim Gordon doesn't have much of a say, nor does he have much of an appearance. He's more there to establish the relationship between Batman and himself. Barbara Gordon is thrown in for fanfare. She has really no definitive role either. She doesn't become more of a definitive role until Asylum. So in this game, she's just there for, hey, remember me, la-di-da-di-da. You have other side characters like Harley Quinn and Penguin, and of course, he's kind of a main, but also kind of a side character, Black Mask, because he becomes a side character after he escapes during the fight between Batman and Copperhead. And for what it's worth, I think he does a good job for what he is. The story is well done for the most part. The cinematics are beautiful and vibrant, but also have like a dark aesthetic to them. This game takes more of a modern art style than compared to Asylum and City. Asylum and City have a more comic book-like look. You can clearly tell by in Origins menu that it has a more sleek and more modern-esque design. Nothing really wrong with that. I just think it's not my favorite. The other thing I did not like, remember when I said pay attention to this line here?
I've long waited for this moment. With your death, I will find peace.
Unfortunately, this is where some more writing gets a little blurry. That line right there shows why I have a hard time with Bane. Bane is a really cool character fight. He has some really good moments, really some big scenes, especially when he turns into TN1 Bane. But I feel like the part where I feel like his character really slips into irrelevancy is we don't know why he hates Batman so much. Like, we're told that he will find peace when Batman's dead. What does that mean? It's not really explained all that much. I don't think it's really well written for his character. I think he is a missed opportunity. If you wanted Bane to have more of a hateful side towards Batman, that's fine, but I feel like you need to emphasize on why that is. Bane does not explain his motives on why he does what he does. He's just there because he hates Batman. And again, we don't know the reason. We just know that that's why. So I feel like Bane is a hugely missed opportunity, and it really sucks because Bane is one of my favorite DC characters. He's really cool overall. I think he looks really good in this game. As of course, until he turns into freaking Godzilla. He's written like the writers wanted him to mean something, but he falls short. I'm not a big fan of it. I wish they took some time. Again, this game was very rushed into development, so I can imagine some of the writing was also rushed as well. So maybe the writers did have something planned for Bane with more depth and more meaning, but failed to meet the mark due to time constraints. That's my theory on that. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. So yes, overall, I think Arkham Origins is an underrated superhero game. I think it obviously is the most underrated game in the series. It has some really great moments, it probably, in my opinion, has the best boss fights in the game. The boss fights in Arkham Origins is bloody fantastic. I can't get enough of them. I wish they had more like this in later titles. But unfortunately, Origins is the only one that stands out amongst these when it concerns boss fights. Also, another thing I really liked is the detective mode. So as you've seen in Lacey Towers, there's also a whole side campaign in the game where you use your detective mode to solve crimes like murders and you catch the killers and stuff. I think this is a great mechanic. I do believe Origins does stand out among the other games in terms of mechanics, and definitely in terms of establishing the origins, pun intended, between Joker and Batman. But the game is by far the weakest in terms of quality control. I think the game definitely needed a little bit more time in the oven, and I think the developers needed some more time with the writing. So overall, I give Batman Arkham Origins a rating of 7.5 out of 10. Great story, great cinematics, but quality control in terms of graphics, certain pieces of dialogue cutting out, characters not written so coherently as their future iterations will show. I think that's what brings Arkham Origins down to a 7.5. Also, I forgot to mention how messed up the pacing is. This is the one and only Batman game that introduces fast travel mechanics into the genre. And it's clear they added these fast travel mechanics because of pacing issues. So yes, that is my final verdict of Batman Arkham Origins. What do you guys think of this franchise? What do you guys think of the rivalry between the Dark Knight and the Clown Prince of Crime? Do you think it's as iconic as I do, or do you think there's something better out there? A different rivalry that stands out even over these two? Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this. Thank you for taking the time to watch this review. It has been a Herculean challenge to get this going. It has really been a struggle, but I am happy with the results nonetheless. I plan to be releasing the first episode of Arkham Asylum here in the coming weeks, depending on how things go. So stay tuned for Arkham Asylum's debut, and we'll go from there. I'll keep you posted. Thank you again for everybody tuning in. Thank you for all the support. I appreciate it, guys. This is Red Warrior signing out. Peace.